and welcome to One Man's Opinion. Today I am reviewing Ivoryton Playhouse's production of Tea at 5, written by Matthew Lombardo, directed by Jacqueline Hubbard, running through June 8th at Ivoryton Playhouse at 103 Main Street in Ivoryton, Connecticut. Have a hot cuppa over at my Patreon page where you can, for as little as $1 a month, support my work here as well as my classic cinema podcast, Yesterday's Matinee. Patrons get early access to the latest episode of the podcast, preview reviews of the reviews here, and other fun little things. Thank you to my current patrons, especially my Neo and Hamilton tier patrons, and welcome to the new ones. Links to my Patreon and podcast pages will be in the description. Katharine Hepburn is one of my favorite actresses of all time. Her films spanned 7 decades with classics like Bringing Up Baby, The African Queen, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, On Golden Pond, and my favorite comedy of all time, The Philadelphia Story. Knowing the heritage that Hepburn has with the Connecticut shoreline and Ivoryton Playhouse itself, I expected nothing less than a play with the utmost respect to the acclaimed actress, and with Tea at 5, a one-woman play about Hepburn's life performed by Carlyn Connolly, Hubbard mostly succeeds in celebrating her life. Set in Hepburn's family home in Fenwick, a small borough of Old Saybrook, Connecticut, not too far away from Ivoryton, the play focuses on 2 specific times in her life. Act 1, set in 1938, has Hepburn retreating to her home after a string of flops, 7 in fact, including Bringing Up Baby, which apparently was a flop before it became a classic. After these 7 flops, there are no prospects to saving her acting career. The narrative is mostly told directly to the audience with intermittent interruptions from phone calls or deliveries to her front door. She reminisces on her childhood, growing up with a fairly liberal set of parents, well, up to a point with her father, who does some pretty horrendous things. Her love of theater, her learning to act, and rise to early success. Meanwhile, outside a storm is brewing, which turns into the Great New England Hurricane of 1938. Act 2 is set in 1983. The last film she has been in was On Golden Pond 2 years prior. She dwells upon her waning star as her age catches up with her, nursing a broken foot. On the phone is Warren Beatty, who wants her to star in a film he's working on, and she is trying to ward off tourists from catching a glance of her. She resumes telling her story of her life to us, particularly focusing on her tumultuous romance with Spencer Tracy. The tie between the 2 acts is her brother Tom, who committed suicide at the age of 15, and Tracy, who throughout his life had a severe drinking problem and anger issues. Hepburn was 13 at the time her brother died and was the one who found his body. Tracy and Hepburn maintained their affair for over 25 years. Tea at 5 feels very personal and intimate. Connolly, though she doesn't exactly land Hepburn's rich mid-Atlantic accent, her bearing and demeanor is spot on with casual propriety. Spina's costume design also creates that great balance between what she looked like in 1938 versus 1983. There could have been a bit more detail in the makeup in 1983, but otherwise the detail was great. The one weak moment of the play for me, though, is when the torments that haunts Hepburn of Tom and Spencer come to a head in Act 2. It plays out a bit too overdramatic for me, taking me out of the realism the play has presented for the first hour and a half or so, turning it into broad melodrama that fills out a character for the rest of the play. Other than those brief 2 minutes or so of this 2-hour play, Tea at 5 is a joy to watch. Sure, there's some historical fudging here and there. For example, the Warren Beatty film mentioned earlier is Love Affair, a film that wouldn't be made for another 10 years or so. Also, the way Hepburn is written, reminiscing on Spencer Tracy, makes it feel like he died just a few years prior, when he actually died in 1967, 16 years earlier. Not that Hepburn couldn't still feel the way she does, it just feels shorter than it really is. But those are minor squabbles to an otherwise delightful show. Connolly is charming and classy, even in Hepburn's more raw, sensitive moments or her more candid, playful, sensual moments. Starlet Jacobs' scenic design elevates Hepburn's seaside home with class and comfort. The photos I've seen of the home interior is far wider than the stage representation offers, but it feels right regardless. Like you can imagine Katharine Hepburn living in this space. And maybe there is a room in a house that is decorated like that just doesn't have a photograph of it available online. Tea at 5 is a delightful and insightful show celebrating the life of one of Hollywood's stars of the Golden Age. Carlyn Connolly is overall excellent, and the play is one that should appeal to people in the southeast region of the state who know the history of Hepburn and her relationship to Connecticut, or those who may just be interested in learning more about this compelling yet sometimes reclusive star who, for most of a century, delighted audiences with her talent. But I am only one man's opinion, so be sure to leave yours in the comments below. If you'd like to see Tea at 5, I'll leave a link in the description where you can get tickets. Also in the description will be links to my Patreon and podcast pages, as well as my social media handles where you can follow me and support my work. You can also support me by liking and sharing this review, subscribing to the channel, and clicking the notification bell to be alerted to future reviews. My next review will be The Baroness at Playhouse on Park. Thank you for watching, and I will see you at the theater.